Okay, ancient Mahar here again. Two for the price of... No, they don't cost anything, do they? Okay, so this video is in response to a comment, really intriguing, I think a really important comment that needs to be addressed, and probably more than once and in one way. But on my live stream video, Borderlines, Not Empaths, and Make Choices and Are Responsible, that I did on July 17th, great comment here that I want to speak to. So a commenter says, I'm glad you made this video, speaking of the live stream, which has been really getting a lot of views since the 17th for a kind of a longer live stream. And they said, I don't know if you have ever made one that addresses, quote, the gifts of borderline personality disorder, unquote. Sorry, that makes me laugh. Or, quote, the superpowers of borderline personality disorder, unquote. Sorry. I'm laughing at what the quotes are, not the comments or people with BPD, okay? I don't know why, I just am. Because it's incredibly ridiculous, really. That people with BPD say this about themselves. And yes, I've seen a couple blogs by professionals that forward the same thing, but all the rest of their blogs talk about how it's a brain disorder, which it isn't, and they blah, 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 you know. So anyways, the commenter continues, I'm sure you have encountered those phrases lately also. Yes, and it's not just lately, it's been for a while now, but hey, they're kind of newer, you know. People with BPD online, on YouTube, writing all over the place, tend to really be pushing this idea. And like I said, doesn't help when a professional on Psychology Today, whose blog I really do not like at all, continues to, on one side of the ledger or the fence or the other, in my humble opinion, just not make any sense about BPD. I mean, not entirely, but like with these kind of comments, and they're all over the internet. But I just was referring to one place where I've seen them. So the commenter continues. Sorry, as someone on the outside who very much appreciates my BPD family members and acquaintances, but really can't deal with them all the time, I am wary of the idea that this, meaning BPD, is, quote, a gift, unquote. It's not a gift. Or that it comes with special enhanced abilities. I know I've been seeing this out there too. It sure is not what I've seen. I think the commenter means in their own experience, people that they care about with BPD. I have seen basically good, kind, gifted, very likable people sabotaging their lives in the darndest ways. Well, yeah, narratives, right? And people with BPDs, again, their feelings, their magical thinking, that what they feel makes it really real. You know what the biggest issue with all this stuff is? Can somebody with BPD be intellectually gifted? Yeah. Can they be creatively gifted? Yeah. But in the emotional arena, no way are they gifted. It's something that when people with BPD go and really get significant and beyond treatment, I don't even know how to quantify or qualify this anymore at all. When you get to recovery, because you can heal and you can recover from BPD, when you get there, well, I'm not going to say that having had BPD gave me giftedness. No, wasn't a gift. I think what doesn't take us out makes us stronger. So having gone through that whole process of recovery 30 plus years ago, I would say, I wouldn't call it a gift, but I would just say made me much stronger. I grew to know, I found out who I was. I grew through the whole process of recovery. I healed. I moved forward. I became much stronger and solidly knowing I know who I am, but I wouldn't say that's giftedness either. So, and there's nothing special about that. That's hard work and determination. And that choice that I made 30 plus years ago, well, and longer, because I was in, therapy for 16 years. Wow, that choice awaits every single person with BPD. And then the question is, how come the person with BPD that, you're in a relationship with, or you are in a relationship with significant other, or they're your adult child, or it's family members, or it's, whatever relationship type in your life. Why don't they make that choice to get into therapy, to stick with it, and to go through it? And GPT is great, wonderful, even been expanded in the last couple of years. I kind of knew somebody reminded me recently, so I thought I'd throw that in here. But it's still not an entire recovery modality. You can't beat the psychodynamic kinds of therapy for BPD. So this choice that, I've healed, I recovered, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but I'm not the only one. Are there a lot of other people online who are talking about? I don't know. I don't think so. I haven't seen them. There could be somebody, but I'm just saying, I think most people who do recover are off living their lives in peace and harmony, which doesn't really happen all the time on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So, because, I still get those comments sometimes. I don't really want to acknowledge it, but it's like, I say one thing, or I get passionate, it's like, oh, you're so borderline, or you're in. I couldn't care less, really, seriously. So, to the point here, though. So that choice to recover, that choice to go through what it takes with dogged determination and stick with it to get to the other side, that awaits every person with BPD. Many people are in processes and, yes, struggling and fighting their way through that, because that's what I had to do too, was struggle and fight my way through it, and open to accepting a lot of things and understanding a lot of things and dealing with a lot of pain. But that is the real awful thing about all this, is that rather than make that choice, so many people with BPD today online are talking about the gift or gifts of borderline personality disorder. It's no, because what they're thinking is that they think they're so empathic, but they're not really. What that really, I think, is more about is their hypervigilance, because they've had adverse childhood experience. Their hypervigilance to ever being hurt again or not. And where's reading the comment? Of course, the phone wants to update itself for some reason. But so it's their hypervigilance to try not to be hurt again. It is them still seeking to be understood through anybody that they're close to right now, if they're close to anybody, as if you are the parent and or the holder of their lost self, of their identity. There's nothing gifted about that. It's hypervigilance. It's the way they try to read the situation in a very protective and hypervigilant way. And then what happens with that? Well, people with BPD, I've got so much empathy. Well, they tend to, many with BPD, have a lot of empathy for their dog or their cat or animals in general, or something that happened that they hear about was terrible, in the news kind of thing. But they don't really extend a lot of empathy often to those that they're closest to, not directly, not mutually reciprocally, very often, if at all, because they bring everything back to self-reference. And what's that about? Well, it's about their still being in the past, right? With the aspect of self split off from ego state of child, self gone. They're still in this defensive, protective mode, which is a mode also can be very controlling. And that's why if they don't get their way, look out, because, and not everything that every person with BPD does that is adverse to you and harmful and hurts you and or sabotages themselves, it's not always meditated, premeditated, or manipulative, but it's not always clearly unpremeditated, or it's often manipulative. Regardless, their attempt to get needs in all manners and forms that are not age appropriate or healthy adult relating, right? So I don't think there's any gifts in that. And the fact that BPD, the adverse childhood response known as BPD, comes with that, unfortunately, due to the arrested emotional development and loss of self, comes this impairment of awareness. And more to the point, yes, lots of impairment to awareness, but impairment extreme, like off the charts impairment of self, self-awareness, because I don't have a self to be aware of. I'm passionate about this, but anyway, and trying to make these points for people to really understand, because I know people get it, but then, emotionally, cognitive dissonance, etc. And by the way, if you're somebody with BPD and you think that you have all this empathy for others, you don't understand how you're relating to other people. They get it. You don't get it. They feel it. They try to tell you. You lose your mind. You defend against other people's trying to tell you how they experience you, because you then feel abandoned or you feel rejected. You don't take any personal responsibility or accountability and you may not yet know how to, but it doesn't excuse poor behavior at all. So the superpowers of borderline personality, in quotes. Yes, well, I have no idea what that means, because, I don't know. I've often said there's only one thing, and I don't mean to scare people on this with BPD, but there's only one thing more painful than going through the treatment to recover and heal from BPD, but that also brings with it rewards, strength, knowing yourself, etc. And that one thing that's more painful than that process is choosing not to get into therapy, choosing not to take personal responsibility. Because people with BPD saying that they're so gifted, they have so many gifts, they're empaths, which they're not, and they're not gifted either. Not emotionally, not relationally. They might be creatively gifted or intellectually gifted, which they may or may not be able to go forward with, right? So the thing is, this idea that they have superpowers. When's the last time you saw a red cape? Really? No. They're not superpowers. What they're really experiencing, and whatever they're magically thinking, and whatever they cognitively distortedly put to the belief of what they feel being real, in terms of people with BPD having superpowers, or somebody with BPD thinking that about themselves. Wow. There's a little peek into the grandiosity that does exist within borderline personality. It's not NPD, it's within BPD. Those infantile narcissistic defenses in BPD. That doesn't mean BPD, NPD comorbid, or narcissistic personality. This is part of BPD. I'm going to be talking a lot more about this. So they think they have superpowers. That's overcompensatory, aggrandizement of themselves. But you got to remember, it's not the same as a narcissistic aggrandizement, because they're going to topple off the way they feel in those moments down to feeling way less than and really bad, etc. And that's sort of the up and down, along with many things to do with BP splitting and what they perceive others are doing, but they're really feeling and they're re-experiencing repetition compulsions from their past adverse childhood experience. So this idea and notion that people with BP have superpowers, wow, I want to be respectful, but that's ridiculous. And it is their way of overcompensatingly defending themselves. So like I've mentioned, or I think I have in a live stream, I don't know. I'm getting so many other things ready. Video series coming to ajmahari.co. More blogging, ajmaharicoaching.com, more things. Join those sites, free membership. Anyway, what I think about this notion of the superpower aspect of whatever they're believing, that certainly won't stand up to scrutiny or reality testing beyond their magical thinking of what they feel is real. And like I said, it's defensive and overcompensatory. But as Eric Berne, in his pioneering model of psychodynamic therapy and treatment, speaking according to Eric Berne, I can put it to you this way. People with BPD who believe, or at points in time believe they have superpowers, or they're gifted, or they're empaths, and all this kind of, what really isn't true. It amounts to really nonsense. Really, it does. People with BP, the sooner they can figure that out or get into treatment and know that, the healthier they're going to be, the better off they'll be, and everybody around them will be better off for it too. So in Eric Berne's way of putting things, this is like a life script. Now, people with BPD, not this belief that they have superpowers, this misconception that they have superpowers, or they're empaths, or they're gifted because they have BPD, like so emotionally gifted. No, it's quite the opposite. I mean, people with BPD have lost themselves. There's no emotional intelligence in there until they start to get help, like serious treatment. So it's like it becomes a life script. It's a terribly sad and super painful life script for people with BPD. And what happens in that then, as Eric Berne talks about, is that people with BPD more often than not feel, I'm not okay. You're okay, I'm not okay. These are life positions within life scripts, okay? So people with BPD often feel, I'm not okay, you're okay. I'm not okay, everybody else is okay. So when they get really, really down about that, pushed to the brink, almost over the edge with the pain of how bad they really feel, and or, when they get emotionally dysregulated, dissociative or not, or whatever, these episodes, etc., different mood states, then when they're feeling so low, they just can't stand it anymore, then there is an element of grandiosity in BPD. And what happens is, so they overcompensate, and they go up in grandiosity because where they're going isn't who they really are or what they have to bring to any relationship or interpersonal relating or anything like that. So then they flip the script. They go from I'm not okay, you're all okay, to I'm okay, you're not okay. I'm okay, you're all not okay. I'm so okay, I'm better than you. And that is the aspect of the grandiosity within BPD, overcompensatory and not as extreme or as long-lasting as those with NPD. So this idea, I'm sorry, I shouldn't, but I do find it funny. It's sad, but it's funny because it's just that whacked. I don't know how else to put it. And I know there's a lot of people who advocate for people with BPD. I mean, I don't advocate against them. I work with clients with BPD. People know these kind of things I say in my videos. They watch my videos with BPD, and then they still come to work with me because they are ready to do the work and they get the truth of what I'm saying. So categorically, this is like flipping a life script that is running on repetition compulsion without a self from adverse childhood experience, and they go from feeling so unokay where you're all okay to flipping that. And it is a sense of grandiosity, and all their empathy and all that they think they're so gifted about or with, all these misconceptions are overcompensatory defenses against how bad they really do feel, how much they often really dislike themselves, to put it mildly. But again, there's really no self there to dislike. So that also gets projected out onto everybody else, or people that are close to them. And the thing is, that's projective identification, not mere projection. So no, this narrative to me is a really sad one for people with BPD. Really hurtful for people that have been hurt by people with BPD. And it just makes no sense whatsoever. So it's the result of people with BPD's magical thinking. And then other people that might say that, I don't know why they would say that. Like the odd professional might say that, but I wouldn't say that to somebody with BPD because there's so much that they need to work on, to face, to learn, to grow through, to get through, to grieve, etc. in a healing and recovery journey, that telling them, if I were to say to a client with BPD, you have superpowers and you're gifted because you're like an empath, and wow, no, because how would that be helping them to get more familiar with why they hurt so much, what really happened in their childhoods, and all the things they need to learn more about and understand to be able to heal. And when people with BPD make the decision, the choice, and that's what it is or not. By the way, I'd also like to add in here something I've said before, I know, like maybe years ago in a video now, I don't know. When people with BPD make no choice, that too is a choice. Because I've had a lot of clients say, but I didn't make a choice, I didn't choose this, Well, no, it's not their fault that they have BPD, okay, or the adverse childhood experience that goes with that in more cases than not. But as soon as you hit the adult age, unfortunately, it's just going to become your responsibility if you have BPD. It became my responsibility, somebody had BPD. So the point is, it's not fair, and people with BPD right bite because, again, they are more invested in being, quote, right, which is so not right, overcompensatorily defending themselves with things like, we have superpowers, we have giftedness, we this and that, we're special, we're more special than you are because we feel so much. And yet they don't have, many of them still, no conceptualization, no reference, no self-reference, right, to no other reference. They have no idea how they're impacting you. Some might be getting to the point where they might see that, or they're more aware of that, but untreated people with BPD have no idea, funny flying here, I don't know, not usually, how they're impacting you. So I've gone on here a little bit long, but I just want to clearly say, as somebody who had BPD, yes, recovered fully, etc., 30 plus years ago, but I would never make that claim on behalf of somebody with BPD or when I was somebody with BPD. And I remember the times in my life, decades ago, where I enacted the same thing. Oh, never using the words, I have superpowers, or I'm an empath, or I'm gifted. No, none of that stuff. But I would enact that, repetition compulsion-based adverse childhood experience, life script I was living at the time that I wasn't aware of. I would flip I always felt like I wasn't okay. I always felt, pretty much always, like I wasn't okay. I'm screwed up. Everything's wrong. Like I always hurt. I don't know what's going on here. Relationally, I didn't know until I got enough treatment therapy and then went on, to recover and heal, etc. But, so the point is, I remember that flipping the script. And it happened in therapy too. It happened in the group therapy I was in. I think the first time I was in group therapy, 3 days, on the third day, I was already going at the person that was most popular in the group or most respected in the group or whatever you want to call it. And I remember a therapist, and his name was Colin, fantastic guy. Didn't think so in that moment. He said to me, "Excuse me, AJ, who do you think you are?" It was my third day there, no kidding. I went into that grandiosity that exists within BPD, and I'm like, I'm new, I'm lost, I'm confused, I'm anxious, I'm all these feelings that were going on inside of me. I couldn't even name them all. And so to compensate and protect myself with the fear that I was actually having and all the feelings I couldn't deal with, I just wanted to go after the person that looked like top dog because it was grandiosity. Plus, I was going to flip the I don't feel okay here and you're okay to screw you, you're not okay, I'm okay, and I'm special, and like, what's your problem? Boy, I got called out in a hurry, and it would take a few weeks to, a month to process that for sure, and a lot of conversation about that, and that was way ages ago. But the point is, this is where I want to educate more on this channel. I'm going to be doing in-depth video series on this that'll be available for purchase at ajmahari.co. Not on what I just said, obviously, because it's here for free, but more to the understanding of this for people with BPD in video series, people, on the other side of BPD, family members, exes, people who are still trying to make the relationship work, somebody who's just dating someone now and all confused and that kind of thing. Because the reality is, this is over-compensatory defense, but meets with people with BPD's magical thinking, a little bit of that grandiosity in BPD, and the narcissistic defense. And I'm not saying these are people with BPD. Doesn't have to be comorbid NPD. It's not about NPD. This is all housed within, as Kernberg calls it, borderline personality organization. So I hope that sets a record straight, at least for people that, follow my work here and resonate with me. And I'm sure many people might not like it, but I'm here to keep it real, to help everybody heal. No joke, no softening the blow. I try to be tactful, but hey, keep it real to help all of you heal and to help you to know what you need to know. If you have BP and you see this video and you really hate it, well, you can leave a comment. Just don't be disrespectful or worse. And the other thing is, think about it first. Think about it. Because I don't want to get into any, quote, right fighting with people with BPD, because that only keeps them stuck with, not making a choice to get into the therapy that they need to. Take care.